Viewpoints on the talk station FM 107 AM 1240. As promised, we have Marc Rotterman joining us this evening here, host of Front Row. You get to watch and listen to him tomorrow evening on WUNC-TV's main channel, 8:30, 9 o'clock on the digital channel. So if you miss one, you can get the other. Or better yet, if you'd like to make sure you heard it right the first time, you can listen to it the second time as well. And then during the weekends on Saturdays and Sundays, I'll share those times with you as well in a few minutes. But first, Marc, good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you, my friend.
Always a pleasure. Okay, we were just chatting about this just before you joined us. The topic of John McCain, the president bringing this up. There have been some interesting calls on our afternoon programs about that. As a matter of fact, the morning program with Brian Kilmeade as well has been a topic all day long. Your observations as a consultant, I don't think that it was beneficial.
A recovering consultant.
I'm sorry, recovering consultant.
I'm in therapy.
Yeah, but thank you very much. And this is part of your therapy process,
yes.
I might add. I'll be sending you a bill. But anyhow, my question to you is, wait.
You sure you have the right address? Go ahead.
My question is, what impact does this have? I'm not going to ask why he did it. Nobody knows why he did it. He did it. That's over. That's fine.
I think it's a sideshow. That's one. Right. The economy is the issue right now. According to the CNN poll, 71% of the American people think the economy is going very well, and that bodes well for the president. I think what the president is upset about, though, and by the way, I don't agree in attacking John McCain. He's dead. He can't defend himself. But let's be clear. Two things. One is it was John McCain who instructed his aide to give to the FBI
right.
and to others the phony dossier, which has caused the president all these problems. The second thing is John McCain did, according to Matt Slapp, who's the chairman of American Conservative Union, promise to support the repeal of Obamacare, which he campaigned on numerous election cycles, right. Repeal and replace Obamacare. And then I think because out of spite, because he didn't like Trump, for personal reasons, he gave it the thumbs down, which the president points out, and let's be clear about this, by not repealing it, a lot of conservatives think people are not getting the health care they deserve.
Okay, I fully appreciate that. I'm like the earlier caller thinking, that's done. It's history. There's not anything we can do about it. What we've got to do is make some changes. To your point a moment ago, the economy is striking along. Of course, the Fed is now saying that the growth won't be as much as anticipated. However, Wall Street is not necessarily Main Street. And Main Street is doing well. We've seen this in a variety of reports recently from small business associations. My only quick comment to you, and we'll move on to other items here in just a moment with you, Marc. It's done. It's gone. It's history. We keep dragging up, quite frankly. And by the way, talking about that, we keep dragging up history. Case in point, this issue on monuments. Look, we walk by the monuments every day. We've been walking by these monuments for 100 years. Nobody's even paid attention. I've talked to some folks who said, well, there's no monument in Beaufort. And sure enough, there's a monument in Courthouse Square in Beaufort. Most people don't even know where it is. It just blends in.
Let me just say this.
It's history.
Okay?
Who cares?
My wife's family, I was from the North.
Okay.
But my wife's family, great-great-grandfather, was from North Wilkesboro. He didn't own any slaves.
Right.
But he thought that North Carolina was going to be invaded by the Union Army, and he fought.
Right.
And he was detained in a Civil War prison camp, which was really bad, and walked all the way home after he was released.
Uh-huh.
Now, I think a monument to Civil War soldiers is perfectly acceptable.
Right. It's history.
But more importantly, if you start, in my view, destroying your history, that is a bad precedent.
No, I agree with you. That is a bad precedent. My point is, it's history. We don't need to fight over it anymore. We don't need to fight over the actions of the late Senator John McCain. It's history. We need to get on with business.
Well, I think the president's on very bad ground on this.
Well,
okay, because It's taken away from his other messages. Look, I fully expect the Mueller report's going to come out. I don't think there's going to be any, quote, collusion.
Right.
As we just talked about, the dossier was phony from the word go.
Right.
I don't think that Jerry Nadler, who's the head of the Judiciary Committee, or the gentleman who's running the Intelligence Committee from California, the name escapes me right now.
Schiff?
Yeah, Adam Schiff.
Adam Schiff.
Have any business investigating the president? This is just it's presidential harassment.
A case in point.
Now, in the case of Nadler, who was on the city council in New York, every development that Donald J. Trump did as a private businessman, when he was on the city council of New York, he investigated. Wow. This guy's had a cross to bear with Donald Trump for decades. But why is the president under any legal obligation at all to produce documents about his private business?
No, look, this goes back to, and this actually plays well into this conversation, both of what the president's done, and as I mentioned a moment ago, this issue associated with monuments. To your point, we started out with a conversation about the president's remarks, and you said it was a distraction, that here we have a country that is moving along economically. It's strong. The business community feels it and is reacting accordingly. Why we even get caught up, and why the Democrats want to continue to drag up history. We are well past the midpoint for the president's term. I'm thinking there's no chance in the world there will be impeachment or any impeachment.
Well, impeachment is bad politics. Nancy Pelosi knows that. AOC does not know that. Ocasio-Cortez.
Right.
Nor does Miss Omar or several others.
Or Adam Schiff.
Socialists.
Yeah, right. But
I will say this right now. Currently, the crop that you have running for president, who have run to the left, who now have signed on, a lot of them, to the new Green Deal, who want to pack the Supreme Court with 10 more justices, maybe, who want to end the Electoral College.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
I don't think that is a platform, along with having abortions after the child is born, is a platform for success.
Right. That's the thing. I'm sitting here watching this unfold, and I'm thinking, going all the way back to your initial opening remark, Mark, and of course that's Marc Rotterman, MARC, since we are now talking about AOC, he's MARC, also known as Mark. Marc Rotterman.
Formerly known as Mark.
Formerly. Oh, okay. But back to that. What's important right now are jobs, people being productive, an economy that's working, and we have, unfortunately, the president dragging up an historic issue that doesn't in any way address the concerns of the day. We have, to your point earlier, we have on the other side of the aisle folks that are whining and fear-mongering. By the way, we're now 11 years and 9 months, by the way, before the Earth as we know it comes to an end. But back to that.
Well, I've built my bunker. Have you got your food?
I'm working on it right now. But I
want to say to you up front.
I've got 11 years.
First come, first serve, and then I lock the door.
You got it. Well, I've got 11 years to go. My point is, this is not. We're not accomplishing anything, and I want to hear from you, because we're going to come up to the issue of here in a few minutes of the congressional races as well. I'm thinking that the audience, and by the way, let me just open the door to that. The phone number is 252 area code 247-7282, 247-7282. What do you want to hear from our elected officials? Stay with us. We've got John from Mill Creek standing by. Let me get John on here very quickly, Mark. John, good afternoon to you.
Afternoon. Thanks for hearing me, especially you, Mark. Please change your terminology. It's not abortion after the baby is born. is flat out murder.
I agree.
I agree with that too.
I'm sorry. I'm tired of hearing we can abort the baby after it's born. No, it's not. It's murder.
Yeah, no,
Let's call it like it is.
Wait.
If it's ugly, it's ugly.
Hold it, John. You've given Mark a great idea. He just shared it with me. So in New York City, it's illegal to put a confirmed committed murderer to death. But we can surely abort him, right, Mark?
I got to tell you, honestly, that we're even having these debates in America today shows you how far our values have fallen in our institutions.
Yep.
And how far left the progressives and the Democratic Party has gone.
Well, I'm sorry that we are even describing it left. I'm thinking just down, and below the point of culture and society. John, thank you very much for your call.
I have one more point, though.
Okay, go for it.
And that is, obviously, AOC and the rest of those that really want to go that socialist must forget that the United States country, before it became a country, it's called, I think it was called the New England Compact, was a socialist try, and it failed, and that's why we are truly now a capitalist country.
Yep. No, good point. The Pilgrims, you're absolutely right. Thanks very much, John. Appreciate that call. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We've got Marc Rotterman with us, and if you're hearing him today live, you can watch him tomorrow evening as well as listen to him on Front Row, as seen on UNC-TV's main channel, 8:30 p.m. tomorrow evening, 9 o'clock on the digital channel, Saturday at 4 p.m., Sunday at 9:30 a.m., both of those times on the digital channel, noon on Sunday on the main channel, UNC-TV. 5 opportunities to watch and listen to Marc Rotterman and his panel on Front Row. We'll get the details of that a little later on in the program. Stay with us. The question for our guest this afternoon, Marc Rotterman, host of Front Row, as seen on WNC-TV's main channel, 8:30 tomorrow evening, 9 o'clock on the digital channel, and then throughout the weekend as well. My question for you, Mark, is looking at these issues, and we've got a lot to talk about. I do want to talk about the dispute with Kellyanne and her husband and the president as well, what impact that has. Let's, as a matter of fact, for a moment, let's do that. I want to get your opinion of Kellyanne Conway's, the Kellyanne Conway show, George Conway. What is that?
Lucy and Desi?
Yeah, what does that portend for us? Is that...
well, first and foremost, her husband has no business going out against the President of the United States.
We agree with that.
When his wife works for the President of the United States.
Yeah, I
think it's shameless. It's put her in a bad position. I saw her on Mornings with Maria this morning, and she talked to her at length. And, she's got 4 daughters. It puts them in an untenable position. We don't know what the situation is at home, but I can't imagine it's very good. I mean, if you don't like the guy's politics, and your wife works for them, then go out and work against him. But don't be so vocal and upfront about it on Twitter and get into name calling. I think it's bad for business. It's harmful. It's hurtful to Kellyanne. She's caught between really a rock and a hard place, but the president has stood up for her.
Well,
she stood up for the president. I will tell you, I don't know what shape that marriage is in. It's none of my business.
Okay, but wait a second. Let's talk about this relationship to Kellyanne. I'm going to say something that's really kind of oxymoronic or counterintuitive, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, in my case, oxymoronic.
I'd say counterintuitive.
Okay, thank you, being very kind. You know
that's
what?
a better transition.
She comes out looking good in this. She's a strong lady. She's capable of separating home life from business life. This is just from a 30,000-foot point. She's a strong lady, able to separate the two. She is very, very fast on her feet. As a matter of fact, in a verbal contest, I wouldn't stand a chance. She's sharp, very, very sharp.
I've known Kellyanne, I guess, since the mid-'90s.
Okay, and
she's
am I correct?
Very sharp. She's very strong. I would say she's one of the best assets the president has. One of the best
Hands
people
Hands down.
around, and she's very loyal.
Right, and
I think she's weathering the storm on this. She is very strong, but you have to wonder what kind of strain it's putting on the relationship with her husband. And he was up for a job in the administration and did not get it. Then you have to wonder.
Was there bad blood?
Not general counsel, but it was...
right. Is there bad... In other words, is there resentment? All right.
Yeah, there's a resentment, yeah.
But here's the question for you, and then we'll move on to the other issues. That fact that this has become, a distraction in the conversation. And by the way, you mentioned it a few moments ago. We have the Mueller investigation, which people are beginning to question if it's even worth concern. The headline reads, "Anticipantment." So...
Well, how long has it been now? 2 years?
Almost, yeah. And the question I have is, we've got so many other distractions. I don't think that the average voter, and I'm going to count myself as one of them, is bothering to keep up with all the noise out there. I go back to my earlier comment and observation that you started with. The economy. It's the economy, stupid, and it's working. So I
think it is working. The other thing is that the average mom and dad, the average family, middle America, eastern North Carolina, they don't have time to listen to all this trite BS every day.
And it doesn't mean anything.
Through school, they're trying to make a retirement. They're trying to buy a new car, a new home. They're worried about their budget. And here's the thing that I'd like to just bring up if I have a minute.
Sure.
Because we're going to bring it up on the show. There's two things going on in Congress. One, there's a bipartisan in the U.S. House, and that's a bipartisan effort to bring back earmarks. And also, Steny Hoyer, who's the number 2 majority leader to Nancy Pelosi, wants to ram through a pay raise right now when they're not getting anything done. The average family in America, two folks working in the household, makes $50,000 a year. These men and women make $174,000, and they want to jack it up to almost $200,000 a year because they can't make it in D.C. because of the cost of living. I find that absurd right now. And by the way, on that type of vote, these profile encourages will all do it by voice vote. They'll never be on a record for it.
Okay, and the other aspect of this, and we don't need to get into the details on this, but many of us are always scratching our head that these hardworking, modest income candidates go to Washington, D.C., and they leave practically as millionaires. And there are a lot of people wondering...
A lot of them as millionaires. Let me tell you, Mitch McConnell's been up there 25 years or so. He started with nothing. He's worth $22 million. How did that happen?
Okay.
I don't know, but it just seems to me that he's playing the inside. It's because of his position. He gets to see deals from, and a lot of things are brought to him that are not illegal, but I'm sure he knows a lot of what's going on. A lot of people want to curry favor with him.
So these are... I go back to my earlier comment. I don't see how this resonates with the basic voters. And I know that everybody's looking at vote tracking and or polling, and they're saying, okay, the president's polling poorly or he's polling well. These candidates are polling.
Well, he's right about 42% in the Real Clear Politics average. And you have to be astounded by that, by the pounding that he takes every day.
Every day.
Some of it he brings on himself, like the McCain issue, which is an abstract and which is a sideshow and doesn't need to be done. And these constant little fights with folks. On the other hand, I think he feels like he has to do it to protect himself. But when you look at it, and we've talked about this before, you have to wonder, how does he get up in the morning?
Right. You've said that many times, and it's so very true. All right. Very quickly, we're going to go to a break. I want to bring this back to local races here in just a moment. The question for you, Beto O'Rourke, we're going to be chatting with the millennials about that this evening. Generated a lot of revenue, getting a lot of press, 17 pages in Vanity Fair last week. What role will he play in this Democrat
He's the flavor. You want to talk about it now or after the break?
Let's do it now.
Well, he's the flavor of the month. I find him to be very vacuous. I don't think he has a great deal of knowledge. As you know, he lost to Senator Cruz.
Right.
He doesn't have a very good command of the King's English. Having said that, I would equate him to Ocasio-Cortez. He knows how to use Twitter. He knows how to raise money. But I think he's a one-trick pony, and he'll be a one-hit wonder. He'll never be president. Some reporters are equating him to Bobby Kennedy,
right?
Who, whether you loved or hate Bobby Kennedy, all right, was a pretty smart guy.
Oh no!
There's no way in the world that this guy is Bobby Kennedy. Believe me.
Right.
And so what I'm saying to you is, I think he'll flame out. I'd watch Kamala Harris. I'd watch the assertion of Biden. And the key question for Biden is this: has the party moved so far
right
to the extreme that he's no longer acceptable as just as an old school liberal?
Well, I'm also wondering if, quite frankly, with the highly and again, John, going back to John from Mill Creek, question his comment about the leftist and the issue of abortion and all that we're hearing now, free college and of course free income. We're seeing this in New York, New Jersey. I think it's Newark, New Jersey. We're going to have a common.
People are fleeing New Jersey.
Oh, and they're fleeing California.
And they're fleeing New York.
And California.
They're fleeing Illinois. And they're fleeing it because the taxes are so high they can't survive. They're driving the middle class out. They're going to Texas. They're going to Florida in the case of New Yorkers.
Right.
Because of the tax situation. And I don't know if you saw this, but and Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, who's the governor of New York, is complaining he's got a $2 billion shortfall.
Right.
Well, maybe he should stop taxing and spending the way he is.
But here's the question for you as we go to the break. With all this basically very leftist approach, very I'm more than socialist, ultra-left approach to the economy and to politics, my question, what's going to happen to the mainstream Democrats? And is there a candidate other than a Republican that they could look to?
Well, I would say that, first of all, I don't think there are many mainstream Democrats left.
Oh, really?
I think there are some centrist and moderate Democrats left in the Midwest. But they're out of sync with the party who is really controlled by both coasts. By the Eastern Democrats, extremists, and Silicon Valley, and the West Coast, and these people, they want gun control. Mm-hmm. They want to be guarded out in Hollywood.
Well, they also
want to have security,
but they also want
you to have security.
They want infanticide. Okay, we're going to take.
What I'm saying is, where's the optimism coming from the Democratic Party?
That is their form of optimism, Mark. You're just not getting it. Stay with us. We've got Marc Rotterman here, host of Front Row. You can watch him tomorrow evening and listen to him 8:30 on WNC-TV's main channel, 9 o'clock on the digital channel, and throughout the weekend as well. Stay with us. I'll share more with you here in just a moment on Viewpoints. During the Y Factor, Mark, we're going to be chatting with the millennials about Beto O'Rourke. But I want to move to, and by the way, we have Marc Rotterman with us for just a few more minutes. Okay. And want to get with him about the issues related to North Carolina politics. Tom Tillis is one of those topics. Very quickly, just to remind you, host of Front Row, as seen on WNC-TV's main channel, 8:30 tomorrow evening, 9 o'clock on the digital channel. Mark, let's talk about North Carolina politics. Tom Tillis is being criticized by Republicans, and I know this is going to come as a shock to you, Democrats as well. They're upset with him because he shifted his vote sort of at the last minute. The Republicans angry because
some would say flip-flopped.
Now that's one of the terms. My question: does this indicate that he will definitely have a primary?
Well, I think there are people strongly looking at it, weighing their options. I think that he's done a good job with veterans. He clearly can raise a lot of money. But on the issue of immigration, he's not seen as pro-Trump, and some would say he's seen as pro-amnesty.
Okay, North Carolina is a state that's very much a purple state, but is it really a purple state? Because I would argue there's a strong contingent of Trump supporters, and they would come under the category, quite frankly, of, if you will, Tea Party
I'd say
supporters.
populist.
Okay, populist, yes.
Yeah. I think there's a little difference between the Tea Party and the populists, but not much. But no, I think that the reason this state is now considered a toss-up by some of the media outlets and the so-called D.C. experts is because the Republicans in the last couple presidential elections, short of Trump, have not run very good candidates. They have not nominated very good candidates. You're not going to get people from eastern North Carolina to come out from Greenville for a Mitt Romney and, frankly, a John McCain. If they don't believe, they won't vote against them. But if they don't believe in their policies, they just won't show up.
Okay.
Now, you can love or hate Jesse Helms, but people showed up for his election they voted with him because they believed in him. They'd follow him up a hill.
Yep, and they knew where he stood. Let's stand here for a moment and talk about both the 9th and the 3rd congressional districts. And of course, there's still a lot of discussion that, quote, the 3rd congressional district is a safe Republican district. You have alluded to in the past that that's not necessarily the case.
Well, we know that nothing's safe in politics.
Okay.
One is, I believe it's Alan Thomas.
Right.
Could be a well-funded candidate, self-funder. I don't think, obviously, there's not as many Democrats running as there is
Republicans.
Republicans. I think the strongest candidate out there right now that I've seen, and she's got a very good ad and looks personable on TV, and she's out there with a good digital and Fox TV buy, is Michelle Nix.
Okay.
And she's got the organization. By the way, I'm not involved in any campaigns, but from what I've seen, I think Greg Murphy's got a shot because of the proximity of where he is in Greenville. I think Phil Law has a good chance. And there are obviously a lot of others. But when you look down at the 9th congressional district, you have to say Dan Bishop's got a really good shot because the majority of his state Senate district on the Republicans, he's running for on the Republican side, is in that district.
Okay, so you think,
of state Senate seats.
So you think very quickly that is going to be a race. All right, I'm going to go. I'm paraphrasing that. Let's go to tomorrow evening's program, Front Row, 8:30 on the main channel, UNC-TV, 9 o'clock on the digital channel. Then throughout the weekend, who's going to be on tap?
Well, we've got Mitch Koch out of the John Locke Foundation, who appears on your show a lot. Loretta Beniti, host of In Focus on Spectrum News. Nick Oxner with WBTV, and Donna King with WPTF Radio News. And we'll be talking about pay raises and earmarks making a comeback in Congress, the latest from the General Assembly. And I don't know if you've seen this, but Democrats want to expand the amount of justices on the Supreme Court. And, of course, bubbling out there is the Atlantic Coast Pipeline investigation.
Right. As a matter of fact, before you joined us, I brought that topic up. I talked earlier this week with Don Carrington about that and his story.
He's got a good piece in Carolina Journal today.
Very good piece. And you got to sit down and you've got to, study it. It's so confusing. And one wonders, why does it need to be that confusing? One of our callers said, well, so that we don't understand what the real issue is. Marc Rotterman, host of Front Row, tomorrow evening, 8:30 on the main channel, UNC-TV, and then 9 o'clock on the digital channel. Mark, as always, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, sir.